flip your bill over, and on the back side is a listing of all the different rates that are available to our customers.
Okay.
So 2.2 is check your rate. And number 3, you know, I liken this a lot of times if somebody's going on a diet. You can't go on a diet and pay attention to what you eat until you pay attention to exactly what is your habit. You know, what do you tend to eat most of the time? It's the same thing with residential customers. I say the first thing you need to understand before you can think about how can I reduce energy in my home is how do you use energy in your home? And I say the most important part to start this is pay attention to how you use energy in the home. When do you turn things on? How do you leave things on? What's your habit? What have you become accustomed to doing in your house in terms of how much energy you use? Roger, without exception, every time that somebody has come back to me and talked to me about doing this monitoring step in their house, without exception, they've always said, you know what, I never realized how much energy I'm wasting by turning a light on in a room, leaving it on all day long, and I never go back in that room.
My wife's got to get on me.
Maybe she should. Yeah. But the next step is monitor. You need to pay attention to how you use energy in your house. When you turn things on, how long you leave them on, in every way that you can think of that you use energy, take a very, very good assessment on how do I use energy in my house.
I got a question on that for you. When you turn the light on, is there an increase in what you're using for energy just to turn it on, and then that would make up for leaving it on for a while?
Yeah, the often asked question is, am I further ahead turning something off or leaving it on?
Yeah.
And actually that's a good lead into my next point.
Okay.
Because the next point is once we monitor and once we pay attention and say, how do I use energy in my house?
Yeah.
The next step, and I'm going to actually break this up between electric and gas, but the next part in this thing is conservation. So now that I know how I use energy in my house, what do I need to do to reduce the usage of that?
Yeah.
For electric, the number one item for electric is turn it off. And I say it's not scientific, it's really this simple. If you turn it off, it's not using energy, and if you turn it on, it is using energy. And that relates so closely to the first step. If you pay attention and know when I turn things on and when I leave them on, and reach the conclusion that I really don't need to leave these things on in the house all this time, simply turn them off. And that's a big first step in terms of energy usage for electric. And the next point is, which is particularly pertinent to the summer season coming up, is air conditioning, turn it up. The more you turn it up, the less it has to operate, and the less it operates, the less electricity it's going to use. So with electric, the 2 points I say is turn it off and turn it up. For your electric appliances, turn the appliances off when you're not using them, and in the summer season, turn your air conditioning up to the point where you create the comfort level in the house that you can stand in the house.
Right.
You know, too hot is too hot. You need to adjust it to the point in your house. There's some information in the More Than 100 Ways to Save Energy which gives some more specifics on that. But a couple of points on electric, turn it off, and for your air conditioner, turn it up, and that's going to reduce your usage. Now let's talk about natural gas. The natural gas, the 2 things I say is turn it down and dress up. Because in the wintertime, if you look in the brochure again, you will see that customers can save as much as 3% in their heating, in their natural gas. 3% for each degree that they dial down.
So I always 3%?
3%, as high as 3% on your heating bill. And your thermostat, the number one appliance for your gas consumption, is in the wintertime, and the number one appliance that accounts for that is your furnace. So I always say if you want to control your natural gas heating bill in the wintertime, you got to pay attention to the thermostat, because that's where most of your bill for energy in the winter is coming in for natural gas usage. So think 1 for 3. Think for every degree that I can turn this down, I can save as much as 3% on my heating bill. And the next question I get is, how far should I turn my thermostat down? And my question is, how far can you turn it down? How far can you turn it down in your house and be comfortable in your house? And this might require the next step, which is where I say you need to dress up. If you're used to going in the house with shorts on and a t-shirt, and you're used to, that's the way you've become accustomed to using energy in your house and turning the thermostat up so you're comfortable, you may need to change that. You may need to put on a sweatshirt. You may need to put on sweatpants and warm socks in order to turn it down. So you need to adjust. You may need to adjust to do that, but just keep thinking 1 for 3. If I turn my thermostat down 1 degree, I might save as much as 3% on my heating bill. So that's the trade-off. That's the trade-off to doing that.
Okay.
Now, one thing I want to point out to you so far, because I haven't gotten to the rest of my steps yet, is everything I've told you so far costs nothing to do. No money invested, no cost. Everything I've talked about so far is simply paying attention to how you use energy and adjusting how you use energy. That alone, without spending one penny, can reduce the customer's energy bills.
Fairly significantly.
Fairly significantly, exactly right. But now let's jump into the next one, which is invest.
Okay.
There's a lot around here, and again, I'll refer to the more than 100 ways to save energy. There are some really long-term and very good paybacks for investing in the house. For example, insulation, windows, doors, all those things in the house that can reduce your usage. It costs some money to do it, but the payback is there, and the payback will be there even more in the future as energy costs continue to go up. So there's a lot of information on that what I'm going to get into now. Again, I'll say, if you can look through that brochure, More Than 100 Ways to Save Energy, a lot of very specific pieces on there.
Well, what sort of things can you invest in that'll make a difference?
Probably the two biggest. The number one item is insulation.
All right.
In your house, the number one thing to do is insulation in your house. And the number two thing is openings in your house, which is doors and windows.
Okay.
So if you want to make a significant investment in your house, you go to insulation, you go to openings in your house, doors and windows, and you put good equipment in there. And in fact, the new legislation and the energy efficiency piece of that legislation, we're going to begin offering incentives to customers to do those kinds of things. So we really are trying to create an incentive and trying to create the opportunity for our customers to do the kinds of things they need to do so they can reduce their energy bill.
Well, what sort of an incentive?
You know, we have, in fact, our filing with the Public Service Commission is being considered right now.
Okay, so that's still to be decided.
Exactly, but it's got all the information in there that we would propose to do in terms of meeting the legislation on the energy efficiency piece of the legislation.
Okay.
Now, the last item in everything that I've told you is to go right back to the first step, review your bill. Even though if I try to compare my usage this month against last month, or this month against last year, the temperatures are going to change.
Right.
So it's never a perfect comparison. But you need to know that if I'm using good energy saving strategies in here, what's my payback? Your payback is you're going to start to see your energy consumption going down and down and down. And that means you're paying less and less for your energy usage. So that's the 6 steps. Review your bill, check your rate, monitor your usage, conserve, invest, and review your bill again.
You know, as cold a winter as this has been, I imagine energy usage was up a fair amount because of that. So this is particularly timely to talk about and applicable, I guess, to the summer. Maybe we'll have a hot summer now.
Sure.
Now, when you're paying your bill, what sort of options do you have on that? Let's say, because of the cold winter, that you got a just whopping bill. What do you do about those issues? Or what do we do about those?